Welcome to my memories number 2. Now, I had hoped to show you some films in which I appeared, but once I looked at my really large library, I found all sorts of little snippets of my Tomorrow's World work and film work. And so I started looking at those, and it was about high time, because you wouldn't believe it, the color faded very much on the visual material I recorded. And now, having it digital, at least saved them. So the first film I want to show you was a piece for Tomorrow's World, which I made in Germany, Liquid Iron by Rail. It had a lukewarm reception in this country.
6 o'clock in the morning. Essen Station, the Ruhr, the Black Country of Germany. The 6 a.m. special is due on its 40-mile journey to the steel rolling mills at Bochum. There are 6 trains like this a day, and they could change the industrial face of Europe. Each of these torpedoes holds more than 165 tons of freshly poured molten iron. A trainload like this means that heavy industries will no longer be tied to the blast furnaces that produce their raw materials. One day, anybody served by a railway line will be able to get liquid iron cheaper than they could produce it themselves. The plans to try out this idea were laid down 6 years ago in Belgium. Soon afterwards, the Germans decided to experiment too. The first problem was to design a vehicle that could travel safely on normal passenger routes, because they knew they'd have to convince people there was no real danger in moving hundreds of tons of molten iron through built-up areas. 1,000 tons of molten iron. In that time, they'll have paid for themselves, improving the efficiency and cutting the cost of steel production in Europe.
That was Liquid Iron by Rail. But there's a funny story. When I arrived at Krupp's and I said, this is what we're going to do, and it looked very good, I said, incidentally, don't enhance your logo because we're not commercials. And they said, no, we shan't. The first sight I had in the morning were the Krupp rings, and Krupp beautifully picked out in black. And I said, oh, I don't want that. Can you not paint them over? And they said, no, I'm afraid it's too late. We haven't got anybody. And I said, well, I have a surprise. And I pulled out 2 very large spray cans with silver and sprayed them over. And they weren't pleased, but there it is. You are the BBC and you don't advertise. Not if you can avoid it. Now, the next film is about the Channel Tunnel. It's a long saga. They've even printed a timetable for it. But, of course, politics went against it and it was stopped. So I did a film about the Channel Tunnel, which was the next attempt. And I found the old Channel Tunnel under the harbour at Dover. But let Willy Wooler tell you about that.
Taking dinner?
I think I'll wait until I get to Paris. It's only about an hour and a half, isn't it? Could I have another glass of wine, do you think? Do you know when we actually reach the tunnel?
Well, we're just going through Folkestone at the moment. We should be there in a couple of minutes.
Very much. Of course, there isn't a Channel Tunnel. At least there isn't apart from this one. It runs for half a mile under the sands at Dover, and it was built in 1886. It's one of the reasons, perhaps, why the whole subject of the Channel Tunnel has become such a crashing bore, because people have been talking about it for almost 100 years, and there's still nothing to show. But it looks at last as if all that's over. At this very moment, they're taking decisions not on whether the tunnel should be built, but on who should pay for it and how it should be run. Within 6 years, you and I will actually be driving through it? What will it be like? In fact, there won't be one tunnel, there'll be three. Two large ones, 21 feet in diameter, each carrying a single line railway track. So you'll travel out in one tunnel and back in the other, with no risk of terrifying head-on collisions under the middle of the channel. Between them, there'll be a narrower service tunnel. And every 200 meters or so, all three tunnels will be connected by throughways. The main tunnels will have, all along their length, narrow platforms, so that if anything goes wrong, passengers can get out and walk through into the next tunnel.
We had a young, new presenter coming to Tomorrow's World, John Parry. Very smart, very smooth, very elegant. And we did something really rather fun. They came along with an idea of headphones that protected you against noise, against impact of noise. And they produced it extremely well. And it does actually work very, very well. It's very bulky. And of course all this is now unnecessary with new equipment. But we made it work in front of the camera. Now our presenter was very new, and he was always very keen on being smartly dressed. And I had a rather cunning idea to say, well, we'll show how good the thing is. And, well, you'll see the end of the film, and I'll tell you afterwards what happened. Well, poor old John, he said, I don't want to be dirty. I said, you'll have to climb out of the can and we'll make you tear your BBC suit and make you look as if you suffered an explosion. He said, no, I don't want to do that sort of thing. We didn't tell him that we had a can of some soot paint put in with a compressed air line. And so when he put the lid on it, and he waited, and I said, don't get out, and we put a maroon underneath the thing, and it went with a big bang, as you heard. And he got out, and he stood there. Absolutely, words failed him. And he became a very popular presenter as a result, but he was very cross with me. And that, I hope, gave you a good laugh and brings me to the end of the second part of my memories.